Well, welcome back again this week to another analysis behind the news. I suppose many of you are curious about the recent events in the Middle East, around Syria, between Turkey and Russia, and so on and so forth. I will try and talk a lot about that in the January bulletin of the John Birch Society, which every member gets. It's our action bulletin, but in the foreword I always like to explain some of the things that are going on in more detail. And I'll show that mostly what's going on in that region is a charade to build a new world order, and show the machinations and that sort of thing that are going on. One of the things, though, that's being touted in the press and the media is the idea of a coalition, a grand coalition, if you will, to eliminate the terrorist threat of ISIS in the region. Now, a lot of this all started back in August of 1991 in this publication issued by the White House, and it is the National Security Strategy of the United States. It was put out by George H.W. Bush, and the interesting thing about it is that in the foreword, preface actually, he calls for a new world order. And if you go on Facebook, YouTube, particularly YouTube, look up New World Order and Bush, and you'll see all sorts of video where he talked to the Congress, to the people of the United States, various meetings that he was at, where we needed a new world order, a grand alliance towards a one world government. And he also brought out the fact that he'd signed an agreement with the Russians. Now, what's been going on here lately is this. Russia plays down the idea of a coalition with the West to strike Syria, or ISIS in Syria. And the thing is that if you go to the Washington Post for November 27th, it blames the failure for a coalition on the United States. Russia blames the United States. Putin said on one hand, quote, Russia was ready to cooperate with the coalition, which is led by the United States, unquote. And then the very next day, 24 hours actually, Dmitry Peskov, Putin's personal spokesman, said this, quote, at the moment, unfortunately, our partners are not ready to work as one coalition, unquote. Our partners are not ready to work as one coalition. And I brought this out before, that Putin has said this, remember, in regards to Snowden, when Snowden was being held at the airport in Moscow, that he didn't want anything to do anything that would upset our partners. And those things kind of gloss over people's minds as they hear them. What does he mean, partners? Well, what he means is that for some time, the United States and Russia have been partners in all of this, working together. It started out here in June 17th, 1992, from the White House, the Office of the Press Secretary. Let me read you the title, A Charter for American-Russian Partnership and Friendship. And this was signed by H.W. Bush and Russia. Next, we see that Clinton did the same thing. Here is one released from the White House back in September 28, 1994, Partnership for Economic Progress. Quoting, desiring to build a strategic economic partnership between the two countries, etc., we agree with this this agreement. Here's another one. Reaffirming their commitment to the purposes and principles of the Charter for American-Russian Partnership and Friendship of June 17, 1992. In other words, they're referring back and building on that partnership agreement between Bush and Russia, and now Clinton and Russia. Then we see from the administration of George W. Bush, May 24th, 2003. And this is from the authentic United States government website. Joint declaration by President George W. Bush and President Vladimir V. Putin on the new strategic relationship between the United States of America and the Russian Federation, May 24, 2002. Let me just read you one paragraph. Quote, "We are achieving a new strategic relationship. The era in which the United States and Russia saw each other as an enemy or strategic threat has ended. We are partners, and we will cooperate to advance stability, security, and economic integration, and to jointly counter global challenges and to help resolve regional conflicts." Now, regional conflicts is like those around Syria. That's a regional conflict. And they say that they're going to cooperate together to solve these things. You see, they've already got this coalition. They've already got this partnership. That's why Putin's spokesman and Putin himself has referred to our partners, meaning the United States. But people find that so incredulous, they can't believe that's what he's saying when he says it. But here's another thing, too. We will cooperate. We are partners, and we will cooperate to advance security, stability, and economic integration. Economic integration. Those are the words that we constantly see in these trade agreements, these free trade, so-called free trade agreements. Economic integration. We're going to integrate our economies. That is a huge step towards forming a new government. That's what happened in the European Union. They started to integrate their economies. That was the first step, and it was always called free trade until they woke up one day and said, whoa, wait a minute, we're in a new now united Europe, a European Union, where the cities and the states and the people no longer can do what they please without going hat in hand to the European Union Parliament, but primarily the European Union Commission to get things done. So what we see in these headlines, and a lot of this was coming into play last week, using that term partners, coalition, and that sort of thing. It's already been going on. What they're doing now is creating the condition for the people around the world, particularly the United States, Russia, and the Middle East and Europe, to stand still for this partnership that they've been building all along, with the excuse of destroying ISIS, which actually was a creation of the United States. Another thing that enters into it is the arming of the Kurds. The top three parties in the Kurdish area there between Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, and Syria, the top three parties are either controlled or influenced by Russia. They're part of the Socialist International. They were started by the USSR, and the Kurdish Workers' Party used to have the hammer and sickle on his flag, until recently. So this idea of arming the Kurds to help wipe out ISIS will be another oops moment, I'm afraid, when they say, I guess we armed the wrong people again. I'm not, as I've said in earlier broadcasts, it's not that they shouldn't have autonomy. It's what do they have autonomy under? What sort of a system of government do they have? Will it be a free government or a communist government? And if it's communist, terrorist, a government like the Kurdish Workers' Party, which is on the terrorist watch list, then that's a problem. It'll just be that another enemy down the road. We keep getting rid of this enemy, evolves into that enemy, and evolves into another enemy, and it never stops. It never stops because, regrettably, France, United States, Turkey, Russia, all of them have been involved in creating these terrorist organizations. The Kurdish Workers' Party, when it evolved out of being a political movement into a paramilitary organization, started to train its people on French soil at French training camps. So, you think that the French are the friends, and sometimes there are enemies, and you can't keep up with all of it. It's a mishmash. is deliberately designed to be confusing and confounding so that you will just accept the headlines and move headlong into this new world order that they're putting together, using terrorism as only one excuse. Until next week, we'll see you then.